I'd like to recognize Chairman Cox with Boating Law Enforcement Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Captain Cook.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. Thank you, Commissioners, for your time this afternoon. We are proposing an amendment to the proclamation for the taking of Raptors for the purpose of falconry. And let's see if I can do this right. And no, I didn't. Those changes would be adding the ability to authorize Raptors that are being used by falconers to be used in nuisance abatement. There are some situations with starlings, pigeons in and around warehouses where this is a very effective, safe method. Also, the other changes is to recognize the taking of Raptors for the use in falconry as a state-only authorization. Federal authorization is not required. Also, we're putting in there in the proclamation the 5 permits, the Peregrine Falcon take 5 permits statewide for August 2018 instead of the 1 permit for only West Tennessee. This will allow us to have a mechanism to award those permits in August in the event the rule is not in effect. So if Chairman Cox, do you want me to pull up the red line version for any questions or just entertain questions now?
Why do you limit it 5 permits?
That's all that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service will allow.
Any questions from the committee? Committee or the commission? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion is second. All in favor of the committee, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Cox and Commissioners.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. I'd like to recognize Chairman Holbert for the Budget Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call on Ms. Pandy English.
Thank you, Chairman Holbert and the Commission. This is a request for a budget expansion for project number 764700. This is the Tennessee White Nose Syndrome surveillance for fiscal year 18. This was actually a grant that was written by the regional non-game biologist in the amount of $30,000 to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. This is all federal money. No match is required. And this is so that when we catch bats in caves, we do a lot of winter monitoring, and we have them in hand, but we can put equipment like radio telemetry equipment, pit tags, and that sort of thing, that when we recatch them in the summer, we'll be able to track them and see the effect of white nose syndrome on these bats.
Move for approval of project 764700, $30,000. Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All committee members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pandy. I'd like to call on Wildlife Program Manager Kirk Miles. Sorry I made you wait. We were just talking about you.
Thank you, Chairman Holbert. I was going to say good afternoon, Commissioners, but I think it's evening now, so good evening, Commissioners. I'm very glad to be here, and I'm very, very glad to be able to bring this budget expansion forward to you guys. It's for a waterfowl habitat improvement projects on Johnson Bottoms Waterfowl Unit, which is part of the Chickamauga WMA. In the interest of keeping things short, TWRA and Ducks Unlimited put in a grant proposal with the Tucker Foundation, and we received a $40,000 grant. It was awarded to DU. That $40,000 will serve as the match for the $120,000 PR monies that we're looking for to expand this budget to do the project. If there are any questions specific to it, I'm glad to answer them, but that's in it in a nutshell.
Any questions? All right.
An amendment to add $2,000, and I would defer to Commissioner Sanders for an explanation. He's not on the committee, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. At the Crane Festival this past Saturday, the Tennessee Valley Chapter of SEI donated $500 to this Johnson Bottoms WMA project, which will be matched with $1,500 in Pittman Robinson funds. So the $2,000 total is expanding this 120 to 122 that will be used ever how Kirk sees fit down there.
Thanks, Tony.
Wow, that sounded good.
So my motion is to make this $122,000 versus $127,000.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to, for budget expansion of $122,000. Is there any discussion from committee members, other members of the commission, the public? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kirk.
I just want to say I appreciate that, and what that does is make this a 5-partner project now. TWRA, Ducks Unlimited, Tucker Foundation, SCI, and TVA is also, we're working with them. So I hope also, I want to say this, that when we show success on this project, we'll go to the next one, and I'll be bringing that one, I hope, soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirk. Mark Goodland, Chief of Wildlife Forestry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'd like to propose a budget expansion of $12,000 for habitat development on Barcamp, Behrens Wildlife Management Area. We've had a generous donation of $3,000 from the Music City Quail Forever Chapter. Again, acknowledge Ron Crabtree from the chapter. And this would be matched with $9,000 of Pittman Robertson funds, so there will be no state funds that are involved, and would help fund the section of road that need to be created to allow us to continue timber harvest. Barcamp Behrens is one of our quail anchor areas, and we've got a timber harvest of about 170 acres there, and this, which is about 1/3 done. We've got a year left on the contract, and this will help that habitat creation, Behrens habitat specifically for quail, to occur.
Thank you, Chief. Do I have a second? A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any discussion, questions from the public? All right, all in favor of the motion for budget expansion of $12,000, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thanks, Mark. I'd like to call on Mr. Roger Jackson.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The division is requesting a budget expansion of $50,000 in wetland funds for conservation easement monitoring, which would be done by the Foothills Land Conservancy at Mount Roosevelt WMA in Rome County. The foreman track itself is a gift to the agency from the Foothills Land Conservancy. And this gift was approved by the State Building Commission at the April 2017 State Building Commission meeting. The hunting rights and recreation rights do come with this property for the agency. There's no problem there, no stipulations. The conservation easement is attached to this property, and the Foothills Land Conservancy is requesting a one-time fee of $50,000 for monitoring of the easement. And this will be done in perpetuity. That's basically it.
Budget expansion, $50,000.
Okay, do I hear a second? All right, I've got a motion and a second. Is there any questions? Any questions from the public? If not, all in favor of the budget expansion of $50,000, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. Says you're a real estate specialist. We all need you on board with our personal lives, you know, so. All right, Lieutenant Colonel Glenn Moats.
Thank you, Chairman Howard.
You're the one we've been waiting on. I guess you know why.
Because this is the best one?
They-
Yeah. Yeah, this expansion request is for a federal grant for a $200,000 project to be completed by the city of Knoxville. The money is 100% federal money with all the match requirements being supplied by the city of Knoxville. The award is under the Federal Boating Infrastructure Grant Program, and the project will construct a transient dock and a new walkway on the Tennessee River on the riverfront at the city of Knoxville. Transient docks are designed primarily for larger boats that are visiting on a temporary basis. Whether passing through or at a destination, these large non-trailerable boats, they just need a place to dock, and that's what it'll provide.
Okay. There your motion. Do I hear a second? I had one listener. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, committee members? From the public? If not, all in favor of the budget expansion of $200,000, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Glenn, one little point of personal privilege. Are you still over the chaplain program?
Yes.
I just want to commend you for that. That's an important program that I really would like the commission to know more about. So sometime the next 3 years before my term's over, I'd really like to have y'all, I'm serious, I'd like to have y'all do a presentation.
Okay.
On what you do, and it's just something kind of like the honor guard that really brings me a lot of pride that you guys do. So I'd like to hear more about that sometime when y'all have an opportunity.
Be glad to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Cook?
That's a great idea. Thank you, Commissioner Holbert, Chairman Holbert. And Chairman Stroud, I'd like to recognize you with the Government Relations
Yeah,
Committee.
Chair recognizes Chris Richardson for just a couple of minutes for an update, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and apologize for not getting on your agenda today. It's my own fault for not being there. I'll be quick, as I know I'm standing between you and adjournment. The 110th General Assembly gavelled back into session last week, and we've gone through now a week and a half or so of session. I'm pleased to tell you we've taken our first step through the budget process. Director Carter, Assistant Director Wilson, and I went down this week to the House Agricultural Committee and got our budget approved through the first step. That budget will still have to go through the Finance Committee in the House and the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee in the Senate. So more steps to go, but I'll keep you apprised of those. This is also, wanted to make you aware, this is also a year where the commission is up for sunset review. Those bills have been filed in both the House and the Senate. And we will be heard in front of the Senate Government Operations Committee next week and the House Committee the following week. I've talked to most of the members of the Government Operations Committee, and they're pleased with the job the commission's been doing, and I'm very optimistic for a 4-year extension of the commission. So those are all very positive things. The bill file cutoff, every day there's more legislation being filed that we are monitoring and keeping track of anything that might impact the agency or the commission. Though that file cutoff deadline is February 1st, so we really won't know everything that we're dealing with until that day's come and gone. But we'll continue to monitor and look at those things and keep you apprised of anything else that's of note. There was an announcement today that you may be interested. The governor has created a new steering committee to look at and evaluate water resources in the state of Tennessee as a whole. Both from a standpoint of wastewater, drinking water, just water resources entirely. Director Carter was appointed to that steering committee, and the initial meeting of that will be towards the end of this month. But that steering committee's goal will be to come up with a comprehensive statewide plan dealing with all aspects of water resources in Tennessee. So it's a very big initiative. with a lot of pieces, but TWRA certainly has a seat at that table and will be participating fully in that process. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that is the update as we stand right now. I'll be coming to you on a regular basis, and I'll be sending some things to you by email as the session continues to progress, but I'll be happy to take any questions that you might have
Thank you,
today.
Chris. Any questions?
You got
Bill?
lots of new members up there. You met all of them, and what kind of?
Every one of them. I go around at the beginning of each year and make it a point to introduce myself to the new members. There's been no new member that I've met or talked to that has any bone to pick with the agency or the commission, and we're going to work on fostering, developing those relationships and providing as much education as we can to those new members about what we do and what we're about.
I think it's important, each one of us has got these people in our area. We stay in touch with them, contact with them, take them to lunch, do whatever you need to do
Yes,
to help us out.
I agree.
Oh, one more point, Mr. Chairman, if I I think I sent everyone an email, I hope you got it. There is an event coming up that I would encourage you all, any that can attend, on February 6th, the Tennessee Legislative Sportsman's Caucus. The Wildlife Resources Foundation is hosting a wild game supper for them at the War Memorial Auditorium from 5:30 to 8:30 on February the 6th, and hopefully some, if not all of you, can attend. It should be a good event and a good opportunity to do just what Bill's talking about and build
Yeah.
some relationships with those policymakers.
Chris, let's rescind that.
I'll be happy
Let's
to.
make sure, that everybody gets that.
I'll
That's
do
a
that.
good idea. Any other questions? Who, Bob? Bill? Well, Bill always buys. He's a good man. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Stroud. Is there any other business from the commission? Director Carter? Then, until 9 a.m. in the morning, we are adjourned.